Silver squeeze, a run on silver. Could it happen again? Hey, look, in 1980, we hit $50 per ounce in silver. In today's dollars, when you adjust for inflation, that's well over $160 per ounce. You're going to be shocked at what you learned today as a silver and gold investor. We have a lot to cover, but we're going to start by comparing today's environment to what we had in 1980 when we did have that $50 silver price. Are things in worse shape now? Have conditions escalated throughout the world that could lead to an even more extreme silver price move? Today, we're pleased to be joined by Ted from Ted Speaks. And I'll ask you, Ted, what do you think? Is the world, and let's focus in on the United States at first here, are we in a more precarious predicament now as compared to 1980, the last time silver hit $50 per ounce?
Well, absolutely. We didn't have the levels of debt that we had back in 1980 that we currently have. That's why this TARP program that we pulled out in order to save us in 2008 is not even possible. So in 1980, the reason why we were able to overcome that and get it out of it, because Paul Volcker increased the federal discount rate, the prime rate of interest, to a 17-18%. And so what he basically did was he saved the dollar by increasing the interest rates. Okay, if he dropped the interest rate, he'd ruin the dollar. Okay, but at that particular time, we didn't have that type of debt on us. So the mining yields have not kept pace with the actual consumption. So we're utilizing what's called a scrap silver and other resources of silver that aren't in fact coming out of the ground. So what we have coming out of the ground right now is around 7-1, but we're finding out that the mining ratios are out of whack. I have a chart around here showing me what the mining ratios are for each different country. And we're going to find out that the number one country with the mining ratios right now is going to be Mexico. Mexico is the number one exporter of silver. So the second one, though, is the bottom. I'm trying to find my chart here. Anyway, these are the names of the different currencies around the world, okay, that all have a derivation back to the root word meaning silver. So we need to get back to what the number one, the Constitution says, and we also need to get back to what the clear meaning of money is, okay? So we've been over that, but these are very, very exciting times right now, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the Ides of March, March 15th. Who remembers anything about the Ides of March? So anyway, let's continue to move forward here.
Ted, I want to touch on this is we're talking about 1980, $160 plus. I've heard as high as $187 per ounce, measured in today's inflation adjusted dollars. I just want to focus in because we think that seems incredible that in measured in US dollars, paper money, that silver could get that high. But if we look at what's going on, you know what? I'm going to pull up one of your favorite things here, Ted, and just looking at the debt levels alone, you know, based on my understanding, back in 1970s, 1980, we had a debt to GDP ratio somewhere around 30%, whereas today we're looking more like over 100%.
That's right. All we have to do is go to the U.S. debt clock. Why don't we drive that point home? Because what I want to make sure
I'm
is
going to pull up, Ted, look at your screen, and I'm going to pull up the debt clock.
Okay, you do it then. You do it. You pull it up. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you see the U.S. debt clock on that's what the viewers are seeing right now?
Absolutely. Okay. So if you go down to the bottom, you got to get all the way down to the bottom here, Ron. Okay. There you go. There you go. There you go. Okay. Let me show you something here, folks. See the on the right hand side, you see the red tab all the way down to the bottom. It starts with 213 trillion, 712 billion, 600 some million, thousands. Okay. You got hundreds, thousands, millions, billions, trillions. Okay. Got 213 trillion US unfunded liabilities. Okay. You with me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
If we have, look over to the left side, see the 188 trillion, 115 billion right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, folks, if you owed $213,000, okay, but you only had $188,000 to your name, are you solvent or are you bankrupt, illiquid?
You're illiquid. You're bankrupt.
That's right. So let's go a little bit further here. How are they keeping this charade alive? All right. So in order to keep the price of silver down, what I'd like you to see is go up to, on the right-hand side, go up from the bottom, see the paper to silver ratio in that beautiful silver color there. Take go down a little bit further more, right there, circle that real big so people can see this. The way that they're keeping a lid on the price of silver is they're selling what are called naked paper shorts. Because you don't have actual possession of the silver, they're selling 393 paper certificates of it. For those of you that have your quote unquote money or bars or whatever in a vault, can they be doing the same things there? How do you know that the same people don't own the same bar? Maybe you were sent a picture of the bars that you bought or the coins or whatever else. But because you don't have them in your own possession and because there's no counterparty risk, how many of those bars, how many of those coins did you actually own? How many people own them at the same time? The fact is, there's a law that says that possession is 9/10 of the law. So they got 90% of the game won in their favor because they have your money in their vault. Okay. Now, all that money has no counterparty existed to it. They're holding it in its pure form. Can they then use that value of all those metals and everything, all the precious metals in the vault to collateralize a loan? Absolutely. If I can figure it out as a non-crook, do you think the crooks can? Absolutely. Have we heard of this happening before? Absolutely. We heard it happening in Europe, and there was one other one in Delaware. The people came back and a whole vault was completely cleaned out. So what I'm showing you here is that the naked paper shorts is selling something against nothing that exists. That's like you try selling a car online with no VIN number, and you're never going to deliver the car because you're never going to deliver the silver here. How many times can you sell the same car over and over and over again if you don't have a VIN number? An infinite number of times. Well, they're admitting to 393, okay? So one person out of 393 will wind up getting their silver. Silver, again, is money, okay?
Yeah.
Remember,
but again, but Ted, that's on the exchanges like the COMEX and the LBMA. I want to point out that there's a lot of good quality, reputable vaulting companies throughout the United States that allow people to hold their metals in a segregated manner. Some of which, and I'm not an expert in the field, I would talk to the people that are, but some of which allow people to actually go and see them, and they're held in a very segregated manner. Of course, a purist who believes that if you don't have that silver or gold in your hand, and that's all they believe in, is that you absolutely need to have it in your possession. But I don't keep all of my silver at my house. I don't feel comfortable doing that. And, so I want to point out the difference there. There are some definitely, IRA companies that are legitimate and very legitimate, reliable, trustworthy vaulting companies out there. Certainly, there's some bad apples. We need to be
self-policing ourselves, folks. There's what's called an SRO, or self-regulatory authority or organization. If no one is from the outside is going to regulate this, then we need to regulate it from the inside. Okay. And I'm not saying that all vaults are bad, but the problem is if your vault happens to be the bad one, you're the one that's in trouble. Additionally, some of these things that are being sold are bars. People told me they're being sold bars. Well, there's many different types of bars. There's dory bars, bullion bars, good delivery bars, cast bars, minted bars, combi bars. And I have a definition down of each type. Okay. Wow. So if you want to get this report, we have it available. Okay. Well, it's a good delivery bar, cast bars, many different types of bars that you can own. Okay. Yeah. Are all bars money? Are any bars money? Or is money considered the coin of the realm issued and struck by the country that you're living in, or actually the sovereign country that we're talking about? Okay. So at any rate, what I wanted to go over is the mining outputs that we talked about, because we're going to find out that in 1970, okay, in 1970, an ounce of silver was selling for $1.87. Okay. Okay. Right now, the ounce of silver is selling for $25.36. All right. Yep. Now, back in 1970, gold was selling for $35.40. It's currently selling for $21.70. So why don't we figure out what the multiplier is between each of these numbers? The multiplier to get from 35.40 to 21.70, okay, is a multiplier then that we would use against the silver. All right. So we would take, can't find my phone here. I had all this work down here. Let's see here. No, Wrong order. Okay.
And
All right.
I want to give everybody a little sneak preview as well. In a little bit here, Ted is going to do show and tell with you and show you visually how we do know one thing for sure when it comes to silver and gold. Over thousands of years, hundreds of years, that the banks have stolen work, and you could even say to a certain degree silver from the people, right? These large banking institutions. So I want to give you guys a little heads up that in a few minutes here, Ted has a very good visual to demonstrate to you how that's been the case.
Yes, I absolutely do. And what I was trying to show you here is that based upon these, see, if I had that vibe board, I could be doing it up on the vibe board for you. What that allows me to do is do the math. Okay, so what I did was the multiplier to get from gold from $35, okay, to 2170. The multiplier for that is 62.29. Okay, so we take the multiplier of 62.29 and we multiply that against the price for silver back then we would see the same appreciation for silver and gold. Okay, and if we did that, that puts silver at $114 per ounce. But I would maintain that the uses for silver have become far greater than the uses for gold. So the demand for silver has outpaced the demand for gold. But if you were going to consider that demand for gold and demand for silver were going to stay the same, and you're going to apply the same multiplier against gold to get it in 1970 to get it to 2170, that multiplier would be 62.29. If you take the 62.29, takes the one against the price of silver back in 1970, gives you a current price of silver of $114.62 per ounce. Now, if you were to stick with Eagles, okay, or constitutional silver, and you take that back to the place you bought it or wherever else, and you want to get script for it or whatever, other the currency, because it is currency and money of our country, there's no tax reporting. So if you take these in and you get paper back, it's much like taking in 4 quarters and getting a gazillion dollars back. Okay. Yep. As long as they are exchanging United States specie for United States specie, there is no taxes as long as it is eagles and junk. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep, that does make sense. And I want to throw in, Ted, I did a little digging last night myself. And when it comes to, I compared, because I was looking at this 1980 $50 silver price, which again is equal to $160 today. And I was interested to find out, according to my research and according to the Silver Institute, that in 1980, when it came to industrial demand, because I wonder how many millions of ounces of silver were used in industry in 1980? Because we know that's like a major, massive source of demand for silver today, right? Solar panels, electric cars, electronics, the list goes on. And I was interested to find out that in 1980, 362 million ounces of silver were consumed by industry. And I believe today,
1980. Wow.
1980, 306. I was higher than I thought, but remember, it was probably being used in film a lot back then and other. But it's almost, from what I understand right now, about 60% of the world's silver production is being consumed by industry. And I think it's around, so that would be roughly 600 million ounces. So demand from industry for silver has increased significantly and is projected to continue to increase. We hear these wild numbers about, by whatever year.
Can we do a quick segue over to this?
Yeah.
Because we were going to talk about this. Okay. And what I did was went on and did some research. Okay. We need that vibe board, folks. If anybody wants to figure out a way to get that in our office, donate it or whatever else, I'd appreciate it. But anyway, here are the top 20 producing countries. Okay. And the amount that they've produced from 2021 to 2022. But the important thing is look at their annual increase in production or decrease in production. Okay. Look at this. Look at this. We're talking about mining companies. Okay. Which ones are doing really well? I didn't make this stuff up. It's already out. Okay. Look at this. Look at the mining companies and look at the negatives. Look at this one up here. What is it? Glencore? My Lord, they're down 25%. Do you see the impending crisis here? So we have a mismatch with the mining ratio compared to the pricing ratio, the mining ratio is 7.1 to 1. The pricing ratio is 88 to 1. Okay. We know that they want us out of silver completely. And if you're smart enough to get any precious metals, they prefer you go to gold because it's not manipulated as much. Okay. But if you're smart, you want to play the game that they're trying to rig against you. You need to play the game the way that they're playing it. Maximize the debt is what they're doing, right? How much more debt can they take on? But what are they doing right now? They moved up gold to a tier 3, from tier 1 to a tier 3 asset, which means it counts as gold, cash.
Yeah.
So that's what's
moved it. I think you accidentally misspoke. It moved from tier 3 all the way up to tier 1.
Right. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah, that's 6 or 1/2 doesn't it? But the point
that is an
is
important distinction. Yes.
well, but the point is that Ted made is that why did the world's banking authorities find it necessary? And it's very interesting, and I think it speaks volumes about precious metals to move gold all the way up to being basically as valuable or being as potent on balance sheets of banks as cash. And
I would argue that I think the real gold on the balance sheet is worth more than the cash is trash.
Yeah.
So what I've done, folks, look, some of you are having a hard time understanding what actually is going on because of normalcy bias. So what I've done is I'm going to show you my entire global collection of defunct currencies. Okay. And what I'd like you to think about is you being one of these people that are holding your wealth in terms of these dollars or these units. Okay. But look at this. I'm going to walk around. We don't have the technology figured out to do it a better way. Okay. So I need my help.
Ted, I have an idea for you. I think you need to get a drone with a camera on it. That might work, but it might blow all the money away.
Okay. Can you see these? Can you see these?
Yep.
Okay.
They see
this
everything
right
on the
here. That is a picture of Nathan Rothschild. What a pompous son of a gun. All right. So look at this. A $10 million mark. They couldn't even cut it out with a what is it called? Some kind of a guillotine cutter. They cut it with a pair of scissors, and he ran out of ink, so they didn't print it on the bank. But you exchanged your hard work and labor for that. Is this a good angle still?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. All right. So each one of these people and each one of these banks, they got people like you in front of them and said, hey, your real money is too heavy to carry. You must give it to us, and we'll issue you paper dollars, paper currency for it, right? Take that instead. Oh, fine. Then I'm going to talk to you about what they did next. So now they got you divorced completely from your money, just like they do in the casinos. Okay. Isn't that the first thing they do? They take the chips and they give you that, and in exchange for the currency notes that they put down on the roulette table wheel, right? They lay it down flat and they shove this thing down there and they separate you from your money. This isn't the first time they've done it. I just showed you 89 times they did it before. Can we connect the dots here? Now, look, we are looking at a fairly lengthy period of time. But why did I come out of retirement, spend my own money to get this thing going on March 1st, if I didn't think, and I did this for 27 years, studied economics for 11 and a half years, that the time was nigh? Folks, if you got the paper before I collect it for zero, it's given to me, why don't you exchange it for money? So what is money? It's silver and gold, right? What does the Bible say is real silver? What did Judas get paid with? 30 pieces of silver, right? Silver's been around since 3000 BC. And we got taken off the silver standard in 1871. So if you take the 3000 in the 1871, you're looking at over almost 5,000 years of history of silver being money. How long has paper been money? Not very long. How long does it last? Why do I have it? Who had the silver that got exchanged for those notes that I have? And what did I pay for them? What are they worth now? At some point in time, people exchanged their labor for that paper. And that paper, they carried around their back pocket. You can see very nicely how it was all folded up. And that paper used to be able to buy them the food that they needed for that day for their family. So here's one here. Look at this one. Look how nicely this folds together. That was kept in somebody's back pocket. Right?
Hey,
so anyway,
Ted.
I'm sorry.
Hey, Ted. So I think it's important for our viewer who's joining us. And by the way, thank you to everyone who's here this morning joining us, Ted and I. But I think it's important for us to remember, just take a step back and think about what you just showed us. A table full of what, 87, I think you said, different pieces of paper that represented, the reality is that represented somebody's work.
That's somebody's
It's
purchasing power.
somebody's purchasing power.
Yes.
Somebody exchanged in silver and gold
Yep.
were I want everybody to imagine, and maybe next time you can do this, a pile of silver on that table as well. And people exchanged their silver or their work, right, for a piece
Yep.
of paper, which is really nothing more than a promise, right? A promissory note, right? Like, oh, this is, unless this given country was on a silver or gold standard at the time.
Then how many promises have been broken?
Right. But even if they were,
9?
yeah, but
And
even
doesn't it
if,
work consistently throughout history? I mean, we just did a skit. A friend of mine is carrying up a monster box and 1,000 face of junk, okay? And he had to carry it all the way up the sidewalk because I wanted him huffing and puffing. And we're going to have this out pretty soon. And he knocks on the door, and I'm the bank and taking it. Hey, come on in, have it. Then we give him some beer. No, actually, we gave him bourbon. They won't liquored up before he signed all the documents, and then transferred his silver over to me, the bank. And then I gave him the currency for it, right? Then I said, hey, we got some stock here too. Why don't you buy some stock? So before he left, he left with a very small wad of cash, but he did leave with a whole bag full of stuff that I think it's right here. Yeah, look at this.
maybe you gave him a couple of tickets to a baseball game, smiled, said thank you, right?
George Bush is recorded as having said, if the people were to ever find out what we have done, we'd be chased down in the streets and lynched. You don't own your stock certificates, folks. I'm telling you, entire industry is going to vanish when the truth comes out. Because if you don't have a CUSIP number on your stock certificate, you don't own the stock certificate. It's that simple. Many people do. Yeah. So what is a CUSIP number, as we spoke once before?
Well, hey, Ted, I want to go back. Ted, I want to go back to the currency example that you were showing, because I want to finish my thought and finish what I think is a really big message to our viewer, that when you look at that table full of paper currencies, and you consider the fact that represents work. Somebody earned at some point in history over the last probably 2,000 years, 500 years, however old all those are. Somebody worked to earn that paper. That was a promise that was made to them. Either they worked for it or they traded in maybe silver, maybe gold, whatever. And maybe one or two of those currencies was backed, right, by a country that was on the silver or gold standard. But at the end of the day, no matter how you slice it or dice it, all of those paper currencies are worthless, right? They may have a little bit of a collector value, but they've all lost their value.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where did that value go? Did it simply disappear? I mean, does energy simply disappear, or energy moves around from one place to the next? If you study laws of physics, energy is neither created nor destroyed. It's here. So if they were exchanged for energy, who has the energy?
Yeah.
Who has the purchasing power? Who has the money? That's the point, folks. The other point is that the Federal Reserve is the one doing it to you right now. However, I just showed you 89 other countries that did it. And if you go to the BIS.org, I will show you 217 individual countries that do that.
Yeah. And I want to point out something else about your final thought on your table full of money. Throughout all those different 89 currencies that all became eventually worthless,
defunct.
You're defunct. If you had a little pile with 2 ounces of gold and a little pile with 100 ounces of silver, throughout that entire time period, silver and gold did maintain their value. I mean, you can argue, Keynesian versus Austrian economics all you want. You can argue, banking and the benefits of the fiat money. Okay, whatever. You can argue whatever you want, but to me, that's definitive proof that silver and gold hold their value. And to be naive and to think that won't continue, I think it would be naive to think that won't continue into the future. That paper, printed or electronic, right? You could put some electronic money on that table as well, that they all have, at least till now. Look, we don't know. Maybe we're in a new era. Maybe things are different, but it sure seems like to me, I feel more comfortable with precious metals.
Can I suggest something here? First of all, silver that we're talking about, constitutional silver and American silver eagles, are money. Okay. The currency is a representation of the money that's issued by the government. Okay. And it is, in fact, currency as long as it's redeemable back for the money. When the currency is no longer redeemable for the money, which is the silver, okay, then it becomes fiat currency. So what you're carrying around in your pocket isn't redeemable for anything as far as money is concerned. The only thing it represents a debt instrument. So somebody owes you something for that. If you're holding the silver, nobody owes you anything. It is, in fact, of itself, immutable wealth. Okay. So then once they corrupt the printed currency to such a degree that they can't print it fast enough, then they go to what's called digital fiat currency. And that's what you're seeing as far as images on your computer screen. But those images do not represent stock certificates. They represent an image of a fake ownership, because without the stock certificate QSIP number, like a car without a VIN number, you don't own it. Now, I guarantee you somebody does own it, okay? Somebody owns everything that's out there, okay? So if you don't hold it, you don't own it, but don't worry, somebody else does, okay? So again, Bush is the one that I think helped urge this along, that's Bush Sr., by taking what was ours away from us. And I told you during each broadcast, I'm going to give you a little nugget. What I suggest you do is take a look at your deed and see if the word land appears anywhere in your deed. You tell me next time we talk. So anyway,
and I want to point out, Ted, that what you're talking about with the stocks, there's this theory out there. I'll encourage people to read about it for themselves. The Great Taking, which got a lot of even kind of mainstreamish coverage as of late, but it's a theory and it's an idea. And the gentleman who wrote it up apparently is credentialed and worked as a big wealth manager, maybe hedge fund manager. I forget the specifics, but it's something that people can read for themselves and make up their own mind. There's different theories on this whole subject of what we own, what we don't own. I think at the end of the day, we can say that stock certificates are paper. I'll go back and I own stock, and I own stock personally in a brokerage account, right? So I'm exposing myself if this theory is indeed factual. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm going to encourage people to read about it themselves and decide for themselves. But I do own stock that's in a brokerage account, Fidelity, Vanguard, stuff like that. So it's a very interesting concept, and I think something people can dig into for themselves and decide for themselves.
So let's see. We talked a little bit about vaults. There are European vaults. There's one that went. Okay. We talked about. You guys own stocks, right? Okay. How many different stocks are out there, and what type of stock do you own? First of all, did you know that there's preferred stock, there's common stock, there's class A, B, and C stock? How many tickers is your stock traded on? Take some notes, folks. I'd suggest you call your broker and ask these questions. Do you own small cap stocks? And ask him to define what a small cap stock is. But here's the answer to the question here right now. A small cap stock is a stock that trades as a capitalization for under 2 billion. Large cap is 10 billion plus. Mid cap is 2 billion to 10 billion. So they have growth stocks, value stocks, international stocks, blue chip stocks, income stocks. Which one's right for you? So if capital appreciation is needed at 7.1%, which is the actual rate of inflation, but in order to even try getting close to that, you need to put your money at risk. I think we need to take a look at the cost benefit analysis. So if you put your money in the market and you were to lose 20% of $1 million, okay, that leaves you with $800,000. What most people don't understand, though, is that you need a return the following year of 25% after incurring a 20% loss the previous year. So it took 1 year to go down 20%. Assuming it takes another year, you get lucky and come back 25% in the second year, we have that nasty thing called inflation, which is an increase in the money supply that keeps going on, okay, of 7.1 the first year, 7.1 the second year. So without any compounding, you're looking at 14.2% loss in purchasing power. You take that away from the $800,000 balance you're left there with after having losing the 20%, that leaves you with a number less than that, right? And then we take out the distribution that you need in order to be able to live on, say $60,000 a year, plus the 70,000 lost purchasing power in inflation. That's $130,000 loss against the $800,000 balance that's lost after the 20% loss. So you need a lot more than 25% simply to get up to where you were, especially when you're talking about purchasing power. But folks, what I want you to understand is there is always an asset out there that is performing exactly as it needs to. You just need to find it. In this particular case, the asset that is underperforming is intentionally underperforming. Okay, it's like a rocket ship building up all this pressure of the liquid nitrogen, whatever they use to make the rockets going. But as you see that rocket on the launch pad, that rocket is taking in as much of that liquid nitrogen right up to the time that the lines blow off. When the lines blow off, that's when the rocket ship takes off, right? I'm telling you, where we are right now is the steam is coming off the side of the rocket ship. We're at T minus whatever. We're daggone close. We're at the Ides of March today. The banks are in big trouble. All we need is one more bank, and the whole thing goes down like a domino. There's not very much left in what's called the Deposit Insurance Fund offered by the FDIC. What I'd suggest you do is get your money in front of you. So we have talked to Pimbex, and Pimbex has a large supply right now of junk silver, and they are willing to sell that bag and thousand face bag mounts for $19,720. That will give you 10,000 dimes. Now, 10,000 dimes at $19,700, $80 per bag, each equals $1.78 per dime. Okay, $1.78 per dime. So if there's 14 dimes, okay, per ounce times $1.98, you're looking at $27.72 per ounce of constitutional silver. That's pure 1 ounce of pure silver, which equates to, at 500 per monster box, 13,860. What I'm telling you right now, you're not going to get a monster box for 13,860. So the deal of the day, as far as I'm concerned, is to reach out to Pimbex. I don't know their number. I think you do, Ron.
Yeah. And, well, and I want to throw something in, Ted, as you're speaking about that. Prices are subject to change. People, when you wrote that down, as a matter of fact, I want to point out, I think silver is doing very well this morning, but prices and supplies are subject to change. And let me run out. I'm going to go out to Pimbex's site just to take a look. Yeah, silver's up 38 cents an ounce this morning. So silver's doing pretty good, and gold is down $2.56. I do want to say thank you to Pimbex for sponsoring Ron's Basement. This live stream, the channel's not possible without the support of our sponsors. This is Pimbex's website. I just happened to be on their Canadian maple leaf page I was looking at earlier. But
now we threw an order over there for 2 monster boxes, and I got to tell you, they came to the customer perfectly wrapped. Everybody was happy, so they passed the muster test.
I will tell you, I worked with Pimbex as a customer before they sponsored the channel. I think I'd made 2 or 3 purchases. When you get a package from Pimbex, I like to say you may need you're going to need a razor knife, a scissors, and I'll joke around, possibly a blowtorch, but you really don't need a blowtorch. But their packages are packed, double packed, triple packed, and you're getting something special. But you're also getting great prices from Pimbex as well. I found, again, you need to find this for yourself. If you think that it's a good idea to buy silver, gold, platinum, palladium, whatever the case may be, and you're shopping around for precious metals, throw Pimbex into the mix. I think that you'll find what I found, but you need to find it out for yourself. You'll get great prices, great service, and great selection. Ted, let's get back to talking about this comparison of the 1980 $160 plus silver price when measured in inflation adjusted dollars today. I think there's some other big changes that have occurred in the world that could lead to a potential for some serious fast movement in the silver price. One of which is communications. When we look back at the 1980s, information spread. Sure, we had television, we had phones, but overall information spread much more slowly. Today, with social media, with Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, when things start to happen, whether it's some type of black swanish type event, when there's a crisis, when there's a big move in the metals, the information moves instantaneously. And I think when you couple that with this idea that people can also buy silver, buy gold almost instantaneously, right? Back in the 80s, if you wanted to buy some silver, you had to hop in your car and drive to your local coin shop. And if there was a huge demand,
find out what they had in stock.
And find out what they had in stock. Today, with the internet, I mean, you can buy a monster box of Eagles or a tube of UK Britannias in the matter of 3 or 4 minutes at any variety of online bullion dealers. Of course, my favorite is Pembex, but nonetheless, that's a big difference now compared to what we had in the 1980s. Do you think that could play into to demand surges that we might see in the future?
What it's certainly going to do is cause an accelerated crash when it does happen. But Albert Einstein is recorded as having said that he feared that technology would get to such a point that the need for actual human interaction would cease to exist, where humans don't talk to one another. And I'm telling you that there's 3 parts to communication. You have what is said, how it's said, and the facial expressions of how it is said. So just to give you an example, I did not say I killed my wife. I did not say I killed my wife. I did not say I killed my wife. So it's what you say, how you say it. So if you try to communicate in written language, my goodness, just using text, you miss a lot of it. And then, of course, you could have, I really believe what you're saying. See? So you can do facial expression to change the whole meaning. So what I'm saying is that we need to get back to shaking one another's hands, looking each other in the eye, and we got to return honesty and trustworthiness back to our society. These things that I'm seeing right now, we need to be bringing more regulation back in, because we let it run amok and we couldn't manage ourselves. We weren't a self-regulatory organization like I came from in the security side. The realm that we're in right now, we're shining a light on it, and we're trying to help people. We are. I mean, the phones are ringing, and you can actually see the dent that's been made in the different inventories just from a couple of podcasts or broadcasts that we're doing right now. But folks, if you don't hold what you own, somebody else does, and that means that they're holding your labor. And I just showed you 89 examples where it works time and time and time again. You all are using dollar bills, right? So somehow it was a great con game to get you to convince you to give up your silver in exchange for the notes. And then it's a great con game because they're telling you that 371.25 grains of silver equals $1. Well, then why aren't you exchanging your dollars that have already run their course, like the other 89 examples of currency on my table? Why don't you go back and get the money and wait for the new currency to come out? Because if you have the new currency, you can get any currency, have the real money, you can get any currency you want. So you can't always take the currency of the country and buy the money. And you can't always take the currency and exchange it for another currency on the face of the planet. But you can always take the money and exchange it for whatever currency you need. My wife and I, we were in Italy in 2003. And we thought we were hot dogs. So we went over there with a pile of cash, and I found all these beautiful ceramic masks. So we had people that were watching our girls and, taking care of the house and running the practice and all that stuff while we were gone. So we found this selection of these beautiful ceramic masks. So I negotiated a price and pulled out my stack of U.S. currency. He says, "Oh, we don't take that here." Well, the last time I had been over in that area of the world was back in 1972. Europe 72 was a Boy Scout trip. And the dollar was king. Well, now they wouldn't take the U.S. dollars. I said, "Well, how do you want to be paid?" "In euros. That's what we use here." Said, "Well, where do you want me to go to get that?" I said, "Just on down the street to the bank." So that's a counterparty. I had to take my currency to the bank. The bank charged me a fee to turn it into euros. Then after the euros were converted net, then I used the net proceeds then to pay the euro, to pay the taxes, and pay for the actual mass themselves. So what I'm trying to say is that when you're holding the money, okay, you don't have to deal with the counterparty. There's no switching around. If I had actual silver eagles in my hand, or junk silver or whatever, I don't think we would have that much of a problem, because we're the only country on the face of the planet that doesn't recognize metal as being real money. If you've been ripped off 7, 8, 9 times, as Mexico has with the changing currencies down there, or other currencies, or even if you got ripped off once because you were in, say, Italy during the conversion over to the euro and your liras got extinguished, then you went through a currency reset. But see, here in the United States, we don't have a population that's alive that has seen the greenback, which was done away with before the bill we have currently. And I only have one of those things, but that has seen some real use. Take a look at this puppy. This thing has been around since Methuselah. I'm sorry, I don't know where this stuff comes from, but anyway, I don't know where the bill came.
And I think it's important to realize as well, one last time, as we think about your collection of paper currencies, all those people that held those currencies, they could have held silver in one form or another, right? And that would have maintained its value today. Speaking of silver,
I wouldn't have them. I wouldn't have these if they were holding the money, wouldn't they?
Right,
I wouldn't have the silver. They wouldn't give that up. It's
Yeah.
just the defunct currencies they were to con you out of giving your silver up for.
Yeah. Ted, I need to say thanks to my mining company sponsors. I'm going to do that, and then we're going to focus in on what's going on in silver today. I have a very interesting chart I want to pull up and get your commentary on as well. But first, I want to say thank you to our mining company sponsor, First Mining Gold, Canadian gold developer. They have multi-million ounce deposits in the ground in Canada. Look, these big mining companies, the Newmonts and Barricks of the world, their pipelines are starting to run dry, and they're going to need to buy big projects in the future. That could mean good things, possibly, for companies like First Mining Gold. If you want to learn more about First Mining Gold and the investment opportunity, you can actually reach out to a real live human, Paul Morris. I have a link to his email, or his email address, in the description of this video below. And secondly, we'll say thank you to Fortuna Silver. Jorge Ganoza is the CEO who's led that company for almost 20 years now. They've grown. They have 5 producing mines around the world, and their mix of gold to silver production has been skewing more towards gold, and they are reaping big cash flow as they continue to grow, and it'll be fun to watch them as we move into 2024 and beyond. You can learn more about them at fortunasilver.com. Ted, you want to talk about the current silver price and what's going on right now?
Absolutely, sure. What we're finding is they're doing everything they can to possibly suppress it. But what we're finding is it takes more and more naked paper shorts. Let me explain what this is, okay? Bottom line is these guys are able to create something out of nothing, basically an alchemist, okay? So around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, what they do is they create these electronic versions of silver and they dump them on the market. Alistair McLeod did a research into this, and he actually became a whistleblower. And he exposed exactly when they were going to remove and move the price and short the price and play all their games. And he knows all the hand signals, like this would mean go up, go down, or whatever, these fingers or whatever. He exposed all that. So when all this was brought out, guess what kind of activity was done as a result of Alistair McLeod losing his job, putting his life in danger to expose how in the world these manipulations go on. But what I'm trying to say, though, and what I hope I am saying, is taking more and more naked paper shorts to get less and less drop in the price, and the drop in the price lasts for shorter and shorter durations. So it's taking more and more to get less and less, same as the mining yields that we have going on right now. It's taking more and more effort to get less and less silver out of the ground. Now, you'll find out if you take a look at the gross gold mining yields, and we have a chart we're going to be putting up on the internet, you're going to find out that the gold production is increasing and dwarfing the rate of increase in silver. But what is it that we need? We need 7.8 billion people to have at least 2.5 units of silver in their pocket every day so they can conduct trade and keep themselves alive and pay for the food, pay for their energy, pay for medical care, whatever else that life calls upon them to actually pay for. So this needs to be hydrated quickly throughout the entire population. So we can see that the silver will need to be fractionalized, possibly as low down as what they are right now, small down to milligrams as they are currently in gold over in Qatar. So in other countries over in the East, the Far East, they're pricing their silver and they're pricing their gold in relative terms and actually vending it in vending machines. So you can
Wow.
walk through the airport in Qatar and exchange your fiat currency, because no currency is backed by gold and silver right now. They're all issued by the central bank of central banks, being the Bank for International Settlements. They have a website. You can go there and you can see they own every bank on the face of the planet. What's going on is they represent Keynesian economics. We represent Austrian monetary economics. We are winning, okay? And we
Yeah.
will win. God says that we win. And we're going to yank the BIS out of this Hydra. We're going to make the Hydra into a beautiful person that it should have been in the first place, and replace the dirty, rotten, stinking fiat currency that I showed you 89 examples of with real money that is silver, going back to God's money.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, Ted, my wife Susie is not at home, but she just sent me a text. I need to ring the bells. And then I want to I want to pull up this chart and talk about two epic battles: the battle between Austrian economics and Keynesian economics, the battle between money printing, derivatives, make believe, unicorn fart dust money, as many of the basement dwellers like to refer to it as, and real money, silver and gold. But I want to talk about what I see an epic battle for the silver price measured in US dollars right now at $24 per ounce. But first, I'm going to ring the bell, the loud, obnoxious bell. Thank you for all the basement dwellers who've been here today for joining us, right? We appreciate the thumbs up. Super appreciate the super chats. Thank you guys. I'm trying to manage a lot of things here. So if I don't recognize that immediately, super chats go a long way to help support the channel. And of course, you can always subscribe. We'll put out a piece of content about silver and gold every single day. To Ron's Basement and to Ted at Ted Speaks Truth. Links to his channel are in the description below. But let's ring the bell for 200 thumbs up. Let me get on full screen here, and then Ted and I are going to talk about some epic battles.
Mm-hmm.
And a few more for our friend Jake. So Ted, I want to talk to you about this. Okay, this comes from one of the people in our community, Kelton. This is a chart of the silver price that starts on the far left in May of 2020. So it's almost a 4-year chart, and that's called a wedge pattern. You can see it's a wedge that the price of silver has been compressing. And what I see when I look at this chart are two things. Number one, in technical analysis, the price will always break out as the wedge gets tighter and tighter, as you see on the right-hand side of the chart, as we move up to the current day. As the wedge gets closer and closer together, at some point, the price will either break out above the wedge or to the lower part of the wedge. Now, of course, with what's been a relatively strong silver price lately, we are right at around 25, a little over $25 per ounce. We're right around breaking out to the upside. But it feels, and I've said this over the last year, it feels like there's been an epic battle for silver right around the $24, $23 per ounce range, and that it's built up a lot of energy. And we also know that it's also built up a lot of energy in that very stretched gold to silver ratio. The fact that we're at 90 ounces of silver to get yourself just 1 ounce of gold. Now that may have dropped a little bit recently with this uptick in
Well,
the
can we
silver.
turn that around the other way, though, Ron? Can we
Yeah.
turn it around that if you're holding an ounce of gold, you should be able to get about 80 to 85 ounces of silver?
Yeah.
Well, as those ratios compress, okay, it
Yeah.
goes from 80, 89 to 1 back to Mother Nature's rate of 7 to 1.
Yeah.
And if you follow along with Ted Speaks and also Ron's Basement, I'm tracking this every day. I believe that there's going to become about a 20-hour window when gold and silver are going to go 1 to 1. It's at that point in time, I'm going to put in a clarion call for anybody that wants to swap their sealed type 1 monster boxes for sealed type 1 gold monster boxes to get in on this. You'll go to your local coin dealer and we'll have it taken care of that way, but it'll be an in-out kind of thing. But what I'm saying, though, is if you follow along and you pay attention to history, you'll see that currently 88 ounces of silver is required to buy 1 ounce of gold. It comes out of the ground at 7.1. However, what's coming out of right off the top, okay, like taking the cream right off the top, is the industry, and they're taking 60% of it. So which leaves a reciprocal of 40% of 100, which is 40% times the 7%, which is 2.8. So what that means is we're getting 2.8 units out of the ground, were all to be used for money for every 1 ounce, 1 unit of gold that comes out of the ground. So if we associate the units with ounces, okay, we would take the current price of 25 and change and divide that into the current price of gold at 2170, and that's where we're coming up with this 88 and 89 price. Now, when you swap your gold for the silver, the coin store is going to make a profit on that. When I swapped mine, it was about 120 to 1, meaning it was 120 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold. And I had gold and I swapped it at that time. And what I got net after all they're making their fees and everything was 107. Imagine this, 107 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold that I relinquished at that time. It's not because I don't like gold. The thing is, I want to go back and get the gold. Once we go 1-to-1, I'll get all of it back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I'm not giving financial advice, and I don't own any. I own gold mining stocks. I don't own really any material amount of physical gold. But if I did, because every time I went to buy either gold or silver over the years, I couldn't pass up what I thought was just an unbelievable value proposition in silver. So bear that in mind. I've been thinking this way almost for decades at this point. But if I did own some ounces of gold, me personally, and again, I'm not telling anyone what to do, but I would be very tempted, even now at 88, 85, whatever the current gold to silver ratio is. I would be very
120.
Yeah, well, you did great. That's awesome. But even at 85,
or even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while, right?
Yeah, well, in the long, I've looked at long-term charts of the silver to gold ratio, and it seems like, depending on how far you want to go back, but even if you just look over the last like 50, 100 years, seems like somewhere around 40, 50, 60-ish is the long-term average. I mean, even if we had
but that's a manipulated average, though.
Right.
And these charts that you're showing, that's the result of manipulated data.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to share before I put these away is this, Ron. Can we give me the screen just for a minute?
Yeah.
What I'd like to show you is this. This note is well worn, okay? But look what's down in that corner over here. How about a unique identifier? How about a unique identifier on this note here, okay? That's a very, very old note. You can probably see through it. Look at this one. This is an old greenback, okay? And do you see the unique identifier there? Let's see, probably easier to see right there. Look at this. Everything that has value has something unique about it. And even if you have an eagle and another eagle, you don't need a marking thing on it, because each eagle, as you take an electron microscope and you take a look at it, is different in and of itself. You don't need to have a missing read on it to know that it's different. All you need to do is take an electron microscope, if you're that hell-bent on figuring it out, because you'll find that every molecule inside of the that makes up the silver is unique, much like every snowflake is unique that falls down. There's a lot of snowflakes that fall down. We still have a lot of snowflakes falling.
Yeah, and I think that can be said about almost anything if you zoom in close enough.
Sure. But how
on
a Bitcoin?
Right. Yeah, good point. Yeah, but they'll claim they have a unique. I'm not a crypto or blockchain expert, but I know they'll complain. They'll complain or explain also that each Bitcoin has some type of unique identifier, and the blockchain and all that.
So what we're showing here is that silver right now, if it were priced in a similar fashion as gold, okay, using the same multiplier down here at 62.29 against the gold to get to the 2170, silver should be selling for, it's all backwards here, $114.62 an ounce. So if you could take $33 and turn it into 14, how many times a day would you want to do that? The thing is, you're not going to be able to do it very long because they're going to run out of silver, and they already have. Try to find type 1 eagles out there anywhere. Next is going to happen is the run for constitutional silver, which, as I showed you before, actually
throw in. I had a conversation with great channel friend, Coin Shop Chris, a few nights ago, and Coin Shop Chris told me that he's sensing and experiencing a surge in demand for constitutional silver. We know that a year ago, there was a massive demand for junk silver, as it had been referred to as, or constitutional 90% silver. But
Junk silver.
his read on the market was that that he's sensing there's this growing momentum of people, again, another wave of people wanting to come in. And I know from speaking with Mike at Pimbex and some other people, listening to other people that are in the online bullion sales arena, that it does also feel like that there's some growing momentum within American Silver Eagles as well. I mean, heck, 6 weeks ago, I couldn't believe the price that you could get for or what you had to pay, how low the premiums were on American Silver Eagles. I mean, I remember a year ago they were selling for, I asked Coin Shop Chris this a while back, they were selling for like north of $50 each. And people were able to pick them up. I picked up a few, I don't know, $26, $27. I think that was I could be wrong. Just my read is that was a little window of opportunity that was gifted to us. I don't, who knows how this year will play out, but I want to point out this. It feels like, and I base that upon talking to people that we are feeling a little bit of a surge in demand for silver right now. And I want to point out something very interesting, Ted. Hold on here. I want to get myself on the screen as well. I want to point out something interesting. The surge that obviously we've had the really great run in the gold price, but what now feels like a little bit of a surge in the silver price, all of this is happening when, according to our government, right, we haven't had a big black swan event that's occurred in the last 2 months. We haven't had a big event. We did not have a banking crisis. We did not have any new wars, although we have wars going on. All of this is happening. All of the strength is happening within the context of things being kind of normal, right? I mean, the economy is strong and great in the United States, according to our government. So if we do have, and doesn't something always seem to happen? If we do have something happen, right, some crisis or black swan or gray swan or whatever it may be, we've already got already have a strong, I would say, demand profile, or an improving demand profile, and pretty decent prices. I don't think any of us are happy with $25 silver, but gosh darn,
how about $4 gas?
Gold.
I'm not happy with that either.
No, right. But gold is banging up on all-time highs. I mean, gold is right there, and we know
Isn't
where
the stock market doing the same thing?
Isn't the stock market? Yeah,
are you
that's what I'm saying.
Sell high, folks? Are you supposed to sell high and buy low? Silver, when factored for inflation, is a screaming deal.
Yeah,
it really is. And I know you guys are getting this. 150,000 views in what's today's date? The 13th. In 12 days, 150,000 people around the planet. We're talking about Japan, Norway, Australia have tuned into this, and they're learning things. They're learning out that their particular investments, they don't have a QSIP number on it either. There is no unique identifier, and they want to learn this too. The guy that reached out to me in Japan, he said, we're facing the same thing. We don't have this kind of thing going on here. So at any rate, we need to remember the reason why there is a rush on silver, because we're becoming students of history. History says that money is silver. Look, okay? See if you can find your currency on there. If you're calling from wherever, Japan or Australia or New Zealand or whatever, do a dig and find out what your name of your currency really means when you factor in for etymology, which is a study of how the words generated themselves, how they became being. Okay. So that will tell the truth. So what's happening now is this pendulum has swung all the way to the left side. We're bleaching our hair yellow and purple and pink and all this kind of stuff. That pendulum is so far to the left side, it's about ready to snap. And when that pendulum swings back to the other side, it's going to be fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. They're going to go back to the gold through the silver. Silver is the money of the people. Gold is the money of kings. Barter is the money of peasants, and debt is the money of slaves. Okay? If you don't pay your bills and you don't pay your property taxes, you're kicked off the land, right? Well, that's because you don't own the land. You won't find the word land in a deed. Check it out. So
Yeah.
anyway, this is an American Silver Eagle. Is that a type 1 or type 2 you have there?
That is a 2023, and it's missing a reed. Yep,
Can
type
you
2.
show us that
Beautiful.
missing reed just on the
Yeah,
side?
it won't show up, but trust me, folks, there's a missing reed on the side of the coin.
All right, you made the cut too. We're going to trust God, the periodic table, and Ron. Does
Yeah,
that work?
that's
Yep.
great. Yeah,
I trust Ron.
that is real money, folks.
Yes,
That's in my opinion, right? This is all our truth. Ted speaks his truth. Ron speaks his truth. It's important for you, right? Consider what we say. We're not giving financial advice. Listen to Ron, listen to Ted, listen to yourself, listen to other people in the sector, and formulate your own plan how you want to protect your wealth. I want to thank Ted for joining us today. Again, it's been another great live stream. Information about Ted is at the very top of the description section of this video. I'm going to run out real quickly to just show you his website so you can see what that looks like.
Thanks, Ron.
Hold on here.
Who we are, where we are, and how to get a hold of us.
No problem. If I can get this figured out. There it is. Okay, so this is Ted's, right? TedSpeaks.net, right up here at the top. And you can learn more about Ted. If you have any questions, you can reach out to him. There's Ted. Look at him. Oh,
hey, one of my better
pictures. Constitution and his American Silver Eagles and welcome video. Oh, look at that. Ron's basement. Awesome. And I know Ted's been on with Stacking Surfer. And he's on a real journey here.
Can we stop there just for a second? The road not taken. Okay.
Yeah.
This is how I lived my life, folks, for the last 65 plus years. I have always chosen to take the road not less traveled. I could have been on a lot of other platforms and had a much easier life and gone along with what everybody else did, which is sell the fiat stuff, sell the fake shares of stock. I decided to take the road less traveled. And I can tell you it's making all the difference in the world because you guys are showing me. You guys are showing me the love. I'm absolutely moved at some of the comments you guys are leaving here for us. And not just one or two, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of you are craving this information and thanking us for the truth that we're bringing out. And I really appreciate you acknowledging what our efforts are bringing to you. So thank you very much. Thank you for the support you're showing, Ron. Thanks for the support that you're showing our sponsors. Pinbex is great. We're going to talk about silver right now. We got to make sure you have something to actually plan with. If you're holding silver, you'll have something to plan with. You're holding dollars, just join the club over there with the other 89 that I showed you twice on this video here today. How many people have ever shown you this? 89 times, not once, not twice, not three, 89 times you have been conned out of your money. And it's done time and time again. It's a system that they got that works. It's worked throughout history. They say if you carry it around, you're likely going to get robbed. It weighs hundreds of pounds. You can't get away as quickly. You can trade with our receipts that we give you. You can buy stock with the receipts. But guess who's holding the money all the time? The guys at the top of the tower. You guys are playing in the sandbox, and we're sitting up here in the pulpit laughing at you. That's what's happening. Stop being laughed at. Get the real money. Don't be a fool again. Don't make this the 89th example of you being robbed and had your wealth taken from you. If it's in a vault, for gosh sakes, get it home. Get it home. Find out exactly what you own. If they're showing you a bar number, is it possible somebody else has been shown the same bar number and both of you own the same bar? Like both of you, 393 own the same ounce of silver. Folks, do you see what's happening? You're going to have to rise above. Not everybody's going to make it out. I'm giving you a peek outside the box, and you need to look inside the box. Now that you're looking outside the box, from outside the box, inside the box, now you can put a plan together to get out. But to make it real simple, turn the digits back into what their real money, what their real worth is, and what the Constitution says it is, which is American Silver Eagles and constitutional junk silver.
Yeah. Thanks, Ted. And once again, I want to say thank you to my channel sponsor, Pinbex sponsors Ron's Basement. They've been great to work with. Ted,
Mike's awesome.
Great. Yep. Thank you, Ted. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks for having me, folks.